recognized man who's helped millions of people around the world. And when I talked to him about coming to the Hormone Summit, he just said yes. It's kind of like he's a yes to life. And when he posted, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people joined us, but I'm really grateful, Anthony. You are the #1 bestseller in New York Times. I mean, not one of not one of these New York Times bestseller. I mean, it's like, no, you're the one. You have 6 books. You're clobbering us. You started with a medical medium in 2015, and every year you have published a book. I mean, I'm blown away by that. You have a voice that is touching all of us, and you're sweet, and your heart is open, and you have, the most sincere desire to be in service. So, Anthony, our medical medium, thank you. Thank you for coming.
It's the best introduction I've ever had. That's it's like, oh my God. Usually it's like, oh, here we go. We got Anthony William here. What is he? He's the what? He's a medium? Okay, wait, New York Times bestseller? Anyway, I'm honored to be here. Are you kidding? It's incredible to be here. It means the world to me for so much. I mean, the service that you put in for decades for helping women's health and womankind. I mean, so to even be on here and to be asked to be here, it's mind blowing for me, totally.
Well, that's sweet. I kind of say, hey, I'm playing with the big boys. with boys meaning girls too. I'm playing on the A team, and that's what you do. You're an A team player. You're really extraordinary. Some people might not know you. I think that would be kind of weird if they didn't, but could you tell us a little bit about how you recognized your gift and how it's used you, or you have used it over the years, to introduce yourself a little bit?
Well, a lot of people know who I am, and they know that I talk back to a voice that talks to me since I was age 4. And that voice is called Spirit of Compassion. And so there are people that know that. And then there's people that just, wait a minute, isn't he the Celery Juice guy that talks to a ghost? Right. So that's the other side of it, where people are, but of course it's not a ghost I talk to. I don't, but the point is that there's kind of like two places where people are just like, wait a minute, I've heard of that guy. He started the Celery Juice thing, I think. And I think he talks to like an angel, or, and then there's that. But yeah, I mean, it all started for me at age 4, and that's where my life was changed. My life was not going to be the way I wanted it. That was where it was heading, where, hey, no way, you're not going to do what you want to do. You're not going to go where you want to go. It's going to be just hearing this voice, and I hear the voice in my ear perfectly clear, like if a best friend's talking to me. And I've said that for years, and people still think, well, is it all in your head? Are you thinking the thoughts? Are you channeling? And I'm like, no, I'm not channeling, which is actually a really cool thing, because there's some really, really connected people out there. They're channeling, they're connected. There's other mediums out there and all that. But what it is it's a voice I hear from the outside. And that outside voice, it's in real time. So I could take my hand and almost block it because it's coming from up here. And, it sounds crazy. And what's funny is I can tell this story, and I could say this hundreds of times for all these years. And when I still say it, I go, you know what? Someone's going to be like, oh, this is too much. There's no way. But if you read like the medical medium books, and you see the information in there, and you'll notice there's no citations in there, and it's medical information. So it's like, wait a minute, how is there medical information in these books, and really advanced medical information, but there's no citations in here? And it's not because I'm a smart guy. I never went to medical school. I never went to college. Never went in any of that. So it's not because, I'm smart or anything. It's because that voice I can listen to and write down in the books what the voice is saying. And, and because of that advanced information, it gets published, and I've helped so many people. I helped 250,000 individuals one-on-one before publishing the first medical medium book. And then the wait list was in the millions. And then I just had to get the book out. But people are like, people for years, you got to write a book. You got to put a book out. It can help so many people because you can't see everybody. And, you know, and that's how it all that's how this whole thing developed into the books. And then for me to be here, but starting at a young age, that voice would tell me what was going on with people. Like, did someone have a brain tumor? Do they have kidney disease? Do they have a different kind of condition? Do they have the root cause of why they have a symptom? So it'd be like, hey, I got balance issues. I got dizziness. It's vertigo, but what's the cause of that? Like, what is it? You know, and it would be used for those reasons, you know, people having tics and spasms and, you know, and floaters in the eyes and burning skin and, you know, neuropathy, mysterious neuropathy without having diabetes. You know how they try to line up the neuropathy with the diabetes? Now that's diabetic neuropathy. Meanwhile, what about the millions of people that have neuropathy without it being diabetic? So it was all that, where it was, you hear the voice and the voice tells you what the causes are to these conditions. What causes tinnitus if it's not decibel damage because of loud noises or an injury to the ear, a physical injury to the ear? What causes tinnitus? And that was the information that spirit of compassion, the voice I hear, has been giving me since I was a child. So it was finally time to get it into the books instead of lecturing with the information throughout the years or helping people one-on-one. It was time that it gets published. And that was kind of the journey.
Oh, it's a powerful, powerful journey. I loved what you said when you say, you know, clearly it was not the life that I had planned for myself. You know, spirit took you, they lifted you, and they, you know. So I heard about you when a patient came in and she had your book and she said, hey, have you heard of the medical medium? It's like, no, but I'm very interested. She said, here's the book. She just gave it to me like that. And I read your book and then I turned it over and on the back was Alejandro.
Yeah, he did the forward for the first book, and Alejandro Younger, Dr. Younger, he's an amazing guy. You know him,
Yeah.
and of course you do.
And then I called him up and he said, big cardiology. He said, no,
Yeah,
he's really.
incredible cardiologist.
And then
And I mean, I couldn't believe it when he did the forward to the book. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, you know, meaning because Dr. Younger is he's a well-known doctor, and, you know, and it was so great. It was such a great time in my life for him to do it. He said, Anthony, I'll do it. You know, I said, hey, do you feel like doing the forward to the book? He said, I'd be happy to do it. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's really sweet. The way that, you know, one person is excited, passes it on to another. And, you know, my clients, my patients just adore you. So I agree. You're not a doctor. You're God. And you help more people each year than.
That's funny.
If you look at a clinic and the doctors in there, probably all the work that the doctors do to help people in, you know, in their lifetime. So that's your reach. And, you know, having that breadth of, you know, knowledge and that understanding, how do you view health? How do you view, you know, what's your way that you really kind of put it together in terms of the health of each person or the health of the human body?
Well, you know, it's, when you see things on what the cause is of everything, you see things entirely different. And like, what causes endometriosis? What causes fibroids? What causes Hashimoto's thyroiditis? And, you know, what causes eczema, psoriasis? What causes like mystery anxiety that's crippling and person can't even function or drive a car? And what causes chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia? Like, what are the causes? Because science and research doesn't know. And so it takes two kinds of things going on there. One is it takes amazing doctors like yourself that are in their practices that know there's more to why we're sick. And so it's, so, you know, you like doctors like you, Prudence, you're frontiersmen, you know, you're literally out there doing, you're on the frontier there, you're on the front lines, and you're pushing forward, and where medicine would just be stagnant and stuck. And you got that going on. And then, you know, and then I'm I'm on that end too of it, where, yeah, I want answers. So I'll ask for answers, and the answers will come down and from the voice I hear, and it's like, what are the causes of this? So I have to see it always in like, what is the cause of whatever that diagnosis somebody got? whatever that label is somebody got, because in the end, they're labels. Most of them are just labels. And so what is that label? It's a great label. You know what? Okay, you got lupus. All right, you got fibromyalgia, you got rheumatoid arthritis, and they're great names. You know, so someone at least has a label, and that helps people to some degree. But what is the cause of your lupus? What is the cause of, I mean, even science and research doesn't know what the cause of lupus is. So what happens is they package it all up. They're filing all these different diseases, illnesses, and conditions. They're filing them into autoimmune, where, okay, let's just package them all up into autoimmune. It's the kind of the best way to go for science and research. And then alternative medicine does the same thing. So even though alternative medicine uses natural therapies, natural approaches, natural modality varieties within it all, right? Even though you have all that, in the end, they still think, most everybody in alternative medicine still thinks, well, it's autoimmune. And what does that mean? Well, I'll just give you a quick rundown. This is how I look at it, is what has happened in the 1950s, early 1950s, when women were filing into the doctor's office for answers because they had symptoms for the first time in history, symptoms that no one saw, just so many different symptoms that were mysterious. When they were filing in, doctors either said two things. They said, well, you're crazy, or right, or we need some other answer. And that other answer is, it's autoimmune. It's your body attacking itself. So that autoimmune theory, exploded right at that moment. And it was the discovery of an autoantibody, but yet an autoantibody, there was no proof. There was no discovery of what it was doing. No one can see inside the body that an autoantibody that had anything to do with anything. There's no scientific proof, no evidence that anything is attacking the body or attacking the glands or the organs. And slowly, this theory grew into like a truth of some kind with nothing behind it in the end. It's like became grandfathered in. And it was the perfect doubt, I always thought, for research in science, because research in science, what I've noticed is it loves to have the patient blamed for their illness. Like, this is your body. Your body's doing this. Your body's attacking itself. Your body's destroying itself. Your body's stupid. You have a stupid body. It doesn't know. It doesn't know what to.
I apologize. The doctors, we love to blame our clients. I mean, we don't mean to, but it's just like.
Well, it's not the doctor's fault.
Yeah. But we do not have the answers, and patients are looking at us for the answers. So I think blame is something that is quite common,
Yeah, and I agree. And autoimmune is kind of comforting at one angle, because if someone has all these symptoms and they're looking and searching, and all of a sudden they get at least some kind of answer, could be autoimmune. For a moment there, it could be comforting for a second. Like, wait a minute, I do have something. So it's acknowledgement that something's wrong, right? But then if you say you're 15 years old and you're with your mom at the doctor's office and you get diagnosed with autoimmune condition, and you're going home and now you're on your phone, you're on your device, and you look like, what is autoimmune? And it says your body's destroying itself. And here you are, 15, 16 years old, 20 years old, 24 years old. And now you're like, wait a minute, why is my body doing this? And it's really devastating at the same time, And so there's really, in the end, when you look at it, it's not a great way to go. It's not a great approach. Okay, if science research really knew that that was what was happening, that the body was attacking itself, which they don't have, that there's no studies that show the body actually attacking itself, and why and how. And with that, what do? We're just kind of like, everything's being filed into there. Just rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, just keep them filing in, now ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's now like, hey, your body's faulty. And then the other one is genes. It's either that or genes. So it's your genes. So science research will be like, okay, well, if your body's attacking itself, it's autoimmune. So that's one route it can go. Another route is, well, it's genetic. So it's your genes. So you're at fault again. So the whole point is, and it's not doctors' fault. It's not that at all. It's above the doctors. It's the system. It's the industry. It's like, let's make sure.
It's the paradigm that we're for wellness, which is wrong. I mean, well, it's not about wellness. Our paradigm is, we don't want to see you unless you're sick. And then, then we'll see.
Exactly. So we end up with either like, it's your genes, or, it's your body attacking itself, or it's all in your head where, you're just, you need, you're creating it, or, you're just crazy. That's another version. That was the older version. But in the end, we don't have a lot of answers. And that's kind of like, I think why the medical medium books exploded. It was because, wait a minute, medical medium book 1 was, you mean Epstein-Barr is the cause of Hashimoto's thyroiditis? It's the cause, it's the cause of fibromyalgia, and there's over 60 varieties of Epstein-Barr, and they're mutated, and there's, they do different things, and they're hard to pick up on tests. And when people had answers and they're like, okay, wait a minute, my vagus nerve is inflamed from neurotoxins, and that's why I have vertigo. And when that happens, someone's like, okay, now I feel like I have a way to do this, because you can play with your diet all you want, but people are still sick. You could be plant-based and vegan and they still get sick. It happens every day where a new person that's plant-based falls from grace. They're not plant-based anymore. Now they're going back to eggs and fish and everything else. And then you'll have the paleo vegan, I'm sure the paleo animal protein, keto crowd, and they're sick too. It's like, you can still eat healthy, and you'll get your symptoms. You'll get hypothyroidism. When you're 38, hypothyroidism will come. When you're 38, you'll start getting fatigue and be like, what's happening here? And you can play with diets, you can get rid of processed foods, you can do all those fun things, but do you have the answers to why you're getting sick? And, and you can be in the best shape and you can drop dead. It's so easy. You can, and people don't really realize that when you're young and feeling indestructible, and, and you're like touting out like food combining or touting out these different things. And, you think you found the holy grail because you got rid of a little acne temporarily or whatever it is, which is great. You still got some years to go, and you still got that chronic fatigue syndrome coming, and you still got possibly lupus and eczema and psoriasis on its way. And you still got your first Hashimoto's thyroiditis after you have your first baby. And all this is still coming. And people have to learn along the way. You got decades in this whole field of helping people. I have decades of it. We've seen, how it works. And so it's about making sure people have, more options and knowing what's causing it, and that it's not your body attacking itself. It's so important.
This is true wisdom. And I just want to, add, absolutely, when doctors hear fibromyalgia and when they hear autoimmunity, most of them run. Acne, eczema, oh my God, we run. So Anthony, I consider you one of the top experts in hormones, and the answers that you have given, are pretty revolutionary and spot on in terms of my knowledge and my understanding. So let's talk about thyroid disease. And it was really an honor to write your foreword to Thyroid Healing. Thank you so much.
Well, no, I was going to bring that up too. And that's this book right here. I mean, you did the foreword for this book right here.
Oh, you wrote a hell of a book, my dear. You wrote a great book.
the Thyroid Healing book.
Yeah. So let's talk about thyroid. What are some of the causes for thyroid imbalances, either hypothyroid or Hashimoto's or, hyperthyroidism? What have you downloaded?
Well, why do our thyroids go south? Like, why does it happen? And that's another thing too. And we got there's some things at play, and in a nutshell, the thyroid gets invaded by a pathogen because we all carry pathogens, and then we carry toxins like toxic heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, copper, cadmium, lead, arsenic. We carry all these different heavy metals. We build up all these metals over time. We also get all kinds of other toxic substances that are inside our bodies. We inhale the scented candles. We get exposure from pesticides constantly, and not just in our food, everywhere. Herbicides, fungicides. We get new clothing that has fungicides. We pump gas at the gas station and breathe in all this gasoline fumes, and we get solvents and petrochemicals in us and plastics, and we're just basically a dumping ground. And so we just collect it. But one of the problems is we collect pathogens. We either start out with pathogens, which could easily happen with some, and we can also collect them along the way, and it happens naturally. We can be using public bathrooms and pick up a new variety of strep really easily. I mean, we can just, it's always going on like that. When we're eating at restaurants, a chef could cut their finger and now you have a brand new Epstein-Barr. And I'm not saying chefs are bad. I'm not saying restaurants are bad. I'm just saying we're all just Yeah, we're in this soup. We're in this soup of being able to pick up pathogens. And then you got all the different varieties of bugs that we can get. And with thyroid issues, that one's the Epstein-Barr. One of the varieties of the 60 varieties of Epstein-Barr is responsible for Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, and it works its way. I call it the third stage of Epstein-Barr because there's 4 stages of Epstein-Barr. And the third stage is when Epstein-Barr leaves the liver. And it's usually when your immune system is lowered in a moment of your life. It's usually at that time. And for women, it happens during their cycles every single month. Their immune system lowers everywhere else in their body. And then the immune system goes to the reproductive system. So 80% of the immune system goes to the reproductive system every time a woman has her cycle. Ovulation, 40% of the immune system goes to the reproductive system during ovulation. And then pregnancy, 50% of the immune system goes to look after the baby during that 9-month period of time. And so usually what I've always noticed is with thyroid problems, it's always after the first baby usually. And sometimes after the second baby, but usually the first baby, because the immune system was so low everywhere else in the body. And that's a difference with people don't realize is that women, I mean, they get sicker than men. I mean, in disproportionate numbers, unbelievable numbers. I mean, you must see it too in your practice. It's like women versus men. And it was funny as I was doing an Instagram live the other night, and this really cool guy made a comment, and it was a great comment. He said, "No, men are just stoic. We hide our symptoms." That's interesting because I've noticed that most men, they cry to their mommies, they cry to their girlfriends when they're sick with the symptoms. And then, and it's really funny. I've noticed men being big babies over the 35 years of helping out lots of men. And, not all men, and the funny thing is that with women, though, they have their immune systems lower way more, and men's immune systems stay steady unless they trash them. So if men trash their immune system, running themselves down, not sleeping, not, of course, eating the wrong way, whatever it is, and or burning out their adrenals in whatever way, and they trash their immune system, they can potentially get sick with the bugs that they carry. Okay, and with women, their immune system's always up and down all the time because they have to bring life into this world. They have to bring new life into this world. So it's an incredible responsibility with a woman's reproductive system. So you got all these moments in life where the reproductive system is calling for more immune system, and it leaves less immune system other places in the body. And that's when women get sick with so many different viral conditions. They'll get the fibro when men don't get the fibro. Very few men get it compared to women. This is just one example. And so with thyroid disease and hypothyroidism, it's mostly women. Why is it mostly women? Because of this very reason. And Epstein-Barr ends up getting into the thyroid. It'll get into the thyroid in men too, but for women, it gets in there. It gets in there easy. It creates nodules. It creates cysts. It'll create thyroid tumors. It'll create thyroiditis, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism. But the whole point about it, though, is it's third stage Epstein-Barr. I've always talked about. That's when it leaves the liver. And hormonal problems are just a warning sign that something else is wrong. So that's what it is. Hormone problems are a sign that something else is wrong. And what is it that's wrong? Like, what's causing it? And so the viral components are a big part of it. And, and that's what I've talked about a lot.
Oh, Anthony, you have, when I read that, here I am writing the foreword to your book, right? And reading your book at the same time. When I read that, it's like, this is a groundbreaking idea. And I think it's absolutely true. I've started checking all patients for Epstein-Barr virus who have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. And Dale Bredesen was on, the big Alzheimer's disease breakthrough person. He's talking about the viruses too, the herpes, the HPV, and various viruses. Traditional medicine does not go down that road. So you're correcting them, and, hats off to you for doing that. And I absolutely agree. I've known for years that it's, women are very vulnerable after the birth of their child for, to develop hypothyroidism. I didn't know about the immunity. Of course, their immunity is up and down. That didn't connect for me until right this minute. So thank you for that. What do we do about Epstein-Barr and cytomegalovirus? How do we raise our immunity? Is there something specifically that our listeners can do? Because we all kind of have it.
Yeah.
Whether it's active or not. I mean, it's very, ubiquitous in the
Yeah,
society.
and it's easy to get more of them. You know, we get into relationships, or we drink off of other people's cups, or we, you know, it's actually like exactly like the public bathrooms. However it is, we just it's just part of life. It's nothing to be, you know, like in fear about. That's not it. It's about keeping our immune system strong, doing things, doing protocols that are antiviral, cleaning up the liver, and these are all helpful things to do. And so, you know, there's one thing that's interesting too is we got the HHV6s and the shingles and cytomegalovirus with the simplex 1, which is cold sores. But shingles is a big one too. That's the one that's annoying so many women. Trigeminal neuralgia, shingles, Bell's palsy, shingles, and there's over 30 varieties of shingles. You don't have to have a rash. So you can be just living your life with no shingles rash, and then all of a sudden get Bell's palsy, all of a sudden get trigeminal neuralgia starting to build, where you're getting pain in your jaw or burning gums or burning tongue. And well, what about, you know, mystery sciatic nerve, where you didn't injure your back, but
Mhm.
you know, you've got the sciatic pain all the time because your sciatic nerve is inflamed. And shingles is really causes a lot of problems for a lot of women, including migraines. So what happens is you'll find women that are suffering more, and they'll get the Lyme diagnosis easier, they'll get maybe an MS diagnosis easier, or they'll get a thyroid diagnosis, either, whatever it is. What they're dealing with is they're dealing with shingles and Epstein-Barr in many cases. They'll have the burning body pain, they'll have the trigeminal neuralgia, they'll have, you know, migraines, mystery like viral migraines, where it's the nerves in the back of the head, and they'll be, you know, they'll have the fibro with it all, which is the Epstein-Barr, and they'll have a combination of both. And so, and that's something right there that women deal with every day. And and it, you know, and it's just not just one bug in many situations. And then tack in some UTIs, some irritable bladder, some bladder infections, some urinary tract infections, kidney infections, BV, you know, bacterial vaginosis, tack in any of those, or just, you know, overactive bladder. And we got streptococcus going on. So now we're dealing with strep. And a lot of women, they'll have some strep issues. They'll have the acne, they'll have the chronic sinusitis, they'll have the sore throats, the mystery sore throats, you know, that don't get diagnosed as strep, but it's strep underlying. And then you'll get the overactive bladder, and you have that situation too. And so there's different levels of chronic symptoms that women really deal with. And then what about if it then goes into the reproductive system with endometriosis on top of having all these? What about fibromyalgia with PCOS? You know, what about fibromyalgia with endometriosis, and then having shingles, where you got symptoms where you're also having pain in your neck and the back of your head because of an old shingles virus that nobody knows about. It's endless combinations of viral issues and viral symptoms. And, you know, and a lot of women, they'll see doctors, 20 doctors, they'll see 30 doctors. They're sick for 10, 15 years.
We aren't going to diagnose it. I mean, we at this point, we aren't going to be able to diagnose it. So this immunity that you're talking about is very important.
Yeah.
And you know, it's important for hormone balance. We're going to go into menopause in just a minute, because I love your thoughts on menopause. But, you know, is there something that our listeners, is it celery juice that improves our immunity so much? Is it, now everybody needs to get the books, guys, because, you know, we
Yeah.
cannot get all
Well,
the answers in this exact moment.
well, that's the Cleanse to Heal book that I have so much
Oh,
information in, if anybody wants to know, by the way. But well, the first thing that's critical is learning the true cause of your conditions. That's what I love about Cleanse to Heal. So you can learn your true cause, because knowing the true cause is half the battle. And then the other half of the battle is, what do you do? And so if you know you're viral, and the thing is, the whole viral thing is funny. When you're really young, you don't want to know it's a pathogen. You don't want to know it's viral. It's just, you just don't want to go there. Like Epstein-Barr, what are you talking about? You're crazy. So when you're young, it's like, no, I just have a digestive problem, or I just have, you know, some aches and pains. But when you're older and you've been through enough symptoms, you're finally like, okay, what is it?
is
I
it?
want to know, what the heck is it? You know, and then you realize, whoa, okay, so I got this low grade viral thing. It came from my original mono, and now I got to do something about it. So what I always say is learn about the troublemakers, and troublemakers are the toxic heavy metals, how to get those out of the body, because they feed pathogens, and learn about the different pathogens that, cause conditions. And, both these are really helpful. It's about that. And celery juice is, some people laugh at celery juice all the time. They'd be like, oh, celery juice fixes everything. No, actually, celery juice is one of the medical medium tools that helps you move the needle forward, because it's that powerful. It's herbal medicine. So it's one of those things. And that when you add that in, wait a minute, oh my God, my bloating's going down, my digestion's stronger, and all these different things. But when you use it therapeutically, you can take it to that next level. And I talk about that. It's 32 ounces every morning, and it's really helpful. It's really about what it does is that when you have viral issues, and that's why you have symptoms, celery juice is antiviral. So that's a big piece of it. It starts to break down viruses, and it doesn't break them all down at once, and it doesn't break them down instantly. It's something that once you start bringing in and going along the way, you start working down those viruses, you start beating them down. And that's what you do. You start weakening the membrane around these viruses, and you start cleaning them up. They're the viral debris, the byproduct these viruses have that keep us sick, and the neurotoxins that are floating around from these viruses. Because the one thing about the medical medium information, it's like, why does a virus bother us? One of the reasons is it feeds off of troublemakers like mercury, like toxic heavy metals like mercury, and then it releases a more toxic substance that's mercury based. So it releases like a methyl mercury that's a byproduct, and it's neurotoxic now. So it's not just mercury in your system, it's now a new form of mercury in your system, because viruses feed off of mercury. Then as they go to bathroom, they release a neurotoxin. The neurotoxin touches nerves, and boom, you light up. It's like, bam, now you got the nerve pain. Now you don't know what this pain is in the back of the head, the back of the neck. Now you don't know why I have the vagus nerve issue. If you even get a diagnosis of a vagus nerve issue, and you're not just called crazy because you're having crippling anxiety, but whatever it is, it's those neurotoxins from viruses that you want to clean up. And celery juice actually helps get rid of some of those. It's part of the process of healing. And then, like the medical medium heavy metal detox smoothie, grabbing onto metals, pulling them out safely. And that's all helpful. And someone might say, Prudence, like, why would you know how to get a toxic heavy metal out? Like, why would you know? It's only because of the voice that's giving me this information. When I was 11 years old, 10 years old, 9 years old, the spirit of compassion was telling me about removing mercury, removing these metals through these means. And it's always been about making sure that someone has a real viable option, because when we're stuck in that sickness, and we're stuck in that sickness too long, and we have too many symptoms, it's maddening for so many people. And then zinc sulfate's a great one too. The zinc sulfate, liquid zinc sulfate, I talk about how that's a game changer right there. And I talk about vitamin C shock therapy, the medical medium zinc shock therapy for helping with so many different problems. And I talk about that in Cleanse to Heal right here. But these are all great ways to beat down viruses, clean out troublemakers, build up the immune system. Everybody's zinc deficient. And then learning how to also, eat in a way that helps these things leave the body. So it's just great. It's great stuff to help people move forward.
It's great stuff. So you address core root causes. You then, find the solutions for those core root causes. You throw in lifestyle, sleep, all this stuff. This new book that you've written about, toxicity and mercury and things like that, and really cleansing. It is amazing. So everyone needs to get this book, because I don't think I've ever measured, with it's basically a urine test that I get through doctor's data, or, which is one of the very good. I don't think I've ever seen people who do not have a whole lot of heavy metals and toxicity in their body. So we all have it. We all have it.
We do. And we build more and more, and we get more as we go along through life.
And it is one of the core root causes of Alzheimer's disease. If anyone caught Dale Bredesen's talk on Alzheimer's disease. Now, what about menopause? And just rip a little bit on menopause, because when I read, what you were saying, I thought, oh my God, he's anti-hormone, he doesn't like it. And then it's like, no, you're not really saying that, but you want to go deeper than just saying that, yeah, we lose our estrogens and we crash and burn.
Yeah. I mean, we got to protect our adrenals. we have to get the toxic troublemakers out. We have to build up our immune system. We got to get the toxic heavy metals out. And, and I've been talking about the toxic heavy metals causing the memory loss and the dementia and the Alzheimer's and the Parkinson's for over 35 years. And mercury being the number one, aluminum being the number two. And when we have these things sit inside of us and they oxidize, that's where the problems go so bad. It's like brain fog and focus and concentration over time, and these issues that happen. And because metals oxidize, and that's another thing that is critical for people to know. It's they rust, they actually decay. And then we go on these really high fat diets. Everybody's on these high fat diets. And when we do the high fat diets, we oxidize metals quicker. So as our blood fills up with fat all the time, metals actually oxidize and break down at that point. They bleed over. And so when it comes down to like brain tissue, if you have toxic heavy metals in your brain tissue and they start oxidizing, they actually go into adjacent tissue. They go into glial cells. They go into adjacent tissue and neurons. They reach other neurons. And then it's like, well, what do we do? It's like, one of the things I've always said is you got to get the metals out, number one. You got to lower the pathogens, number two. You have to keep the immune system strong, number three. And I know there's two stories out there. Well, there'll be another story will be like, well, if you overdo your immune system is supposed to be able to balance itself, or not really. No, it's under too much. It's under too much. I mean, we have stuff falling out of the sky that we were exposed to, and we're exposed to so many different things. And then our adrenals. This is another thing I've been talking about lately is caffeine, is that, and I know that people don't want to hear me talk about caffeine. It's kind of funny because I get slammed for so many things that I talk about, but the caffeine thing, I think, hits a core for so many people. And because they love their caffeine, they love their matcha tea, they love their coffee drinks, they love all that, they love their chocolate. But what happens with the industries, the shareholders of the caffeine industry, way above just the small companies that are actually trying to start their first beverage or anything, the shareholders of the caffeine giant going all the way back for decades and decades, that caffeine giant wants women addicted. They want women addicted to caffeine. And it's a sure sale. It's a sure shot. It's a guarantee to keep women, into that addiction mode. But the problem is with that is it means just adrenal damage along the way. And no one's helping women like make choices and say, look, you can injure your adrenals if we keep on doing the caffeine too long or too many years. And then you get the skin problems, you get the aging faster, you burn out your adrenals, you get the women's hair loss, and you get all these different things from the caffeine. And then if you are viral and you are dealing with Epstein, Barr, and shingles, and you have symptoms, the caffeine will just keep on. What happens is the adrenals just pump out. You throw caffeine in your body, your adrenals are just squeezing and pumping out adrenaline. And that adrenaline, it can trigger a lot of different issues. One, it could feed viruses. Number two, worsen conditions faster or take you there faster. Number two, it weakens the liver because the liver tries to sop up all that adrenaline. Number three, all that adrenaline starts to wear down neurotransmitters, electrical impulses in the brain, neurons. It starts to break down neurons, the whole bit. And we end up with this whole adrenal issue too. We end up with a stagnant, sluggish liver from poor diets, meaning poor healthy diets too. We get the adrenals weakening, we get the liver getting stagnant, sluggish, we get viral, we got the toxic heavy metals. When all of these things are just encompassed and happening all the time, it's like Russian roulette. It's like, you don't know what you're gonna get. I mean, it's the musical chairs or whatever. You don't know which seat you're gonna land on or when. And so that's the deal. It's like we kind of walk around blindly and we get sick blindly. And then when we're sick, we're still blind. And then we still don't really know what to try or do. And then the internet's filled with all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of conflicting information left and right. Podcasts have information left and right of all these things, but yet nobody knows why anybody's sick. And then everybody's trying different diets. And then everybody's afraid of fruit. Everybody's afraid of this. Everybody's afraid of a potato for no reason. And then meanwhile, and everybody's still sick. So it's really about making sure we have control for the first time, or choices or options or knowing what's going on. And all this matters. So
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about menopause, of course, what you said before, that would be a time that our immunity was down. And then
Yeah.
on top of it, that stress of menopause and not having the hormones, the adrenal glands are responsible for the hot flashes. Like when women come in and say, oh my God, I'm having massive hot flashes. I say, okay, they're really at the top of their adrenal function, pushing out more cortisol and things. And when they lose all their adrenal function and they don't have hot flashes, they say, well, I'm through menopause. And it's like, oh no, you burned your adrenals out. So I think that loss of adrenal function, like you say, plus the vulnerability to the bugs, to the viruses, really, really makes menopause much harder in this, in this century, much
Well,
harder than ever before.
Well, menopause in years past before the 1940s was always a different thing. It was like you get relief with menopause. You get relief.
Oh no,
It,
we're gonna off ourselves at menopause.
the hot flashes, the heart palpitations, the fatigue, the anxiety, the depression, that didn't exist really. I mean, if it existed before menopause with a person, with a woman. So, but if a woman was living her life and not having any of that, and then all of a sudden getting symptoms around menopause, it's a different story. What happens is that in the years past, it would never happen like that. Women wouldn't be suffering from all the symptoms they suffer from now. And so, but the reason why we have these symptoms tagged as menopause now is because really we're dealing with all these different issues. We're dealing with a liver that got stagnant and sluggish, filled with toxins, filled with toxic heavy metals, solvents, pesticides, and petroleum, petrochemicals and everything else. And then we have the pathogens, the Epstein, Barr, the shingles, cytomegalovirus, the HHVs, all the way up, and then the undiscovered HHVs. And then you got all that. And then it's kind of like a whole mishmash, hosh posh, of everything. And by the time a woman's 40 or 38, and sometimes in the years ago, 20, 30 years ago, you probably remember this, because I do, is that women would get their first sign of what would be tagged as menopause symptoms, like say in their 40s, right? Say in their 50s, right? Now it's like, well, why are women getting these menopause symptoms at 20 years old?
Well,
Because they never.
Terrible toxin, so women, yeah, but it's not just the pill. It's you're absolutely right. We are exposed to so much more pollution, toxicity, mercury. And I don't know about the viruses, but I mean, look at COVID. It didn't used to be around and now it's here.
Yeah, well, and
I mean,
and science and research doesn't know.
we have a little lapse. Let's see if you can come back on, Anthony. You can maybe sign out and come back on. Yeah, so this toxicity is extremely difficult. And
There you are.
there we
Sorry,
are.
I think I lost you.
I was filling in, Anthony. You were saying.
Yeah, and well, look at what's happening with the virus that's going around like today. It's like science research doesn't have an answer for it. And that's the problem. We have all these viruses anyway, keeping people sick with chronic illness, hundreds of autoimmune conditions with no answers because they're viral. And science and research doesn't talk about it, doesn't know anything about it. We're kind of in the dark ages, still in the dark ages. And you don't know that until you get sick.
We are absolutely in the dark ages. The way we treat cancer, the way we, poison our entire body, the fear surrounding, diseases like this. Yeah, we are in the dark ages. So, I really feel that, your approach then to menopause would be get healthy. I mean, detoxify, build your immunity, drink your celery juice, do what you can to kill the viruses.
Cleaning up the liver is a big part of it right there. If you get your liver out of that stagnant, sluggish state, and you clean it up a little bit, and you lower some fats so your liver can get a chance to cleanse, whatever diet you're on, whether it's plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, animal protein, whatever. But that's one thing. The other is, if you're really struggling with symptoms and it just happened to fall around menopause, even though those same symptoms are now happening to 20-year-olds, like left and right, just it's the same symptoms now. Like I said, like 20, 30 years ago, it was women that were turning 40 in their late 30s, in their early 50s, right, with the symptoms, and then it was getting tagged as perimenopause or menopause. But what about, countless women in their 20s have all the same symptoms now: dizziness, fatigue, heart palpitations. And so with that, it's okay, well, we have to do something about it, because it's more than just menopause. It was never just menopause. It was more. It's back to the true causes. It's back to the Epstein Barrs and the shingles and the cytomegalovirus. And, it's back to these things, and back to the toxic heavy metals, causing the brain fog, the anxiety, the depression. It's back to these things. And that's really what it is. Because back in the day, long before things got worse and worse in the 20th century, it was really, women felt better. They had more energy after with menopause. They had more energy. I mean, it was so different.
It's so different. And that's just, you've given the answer a number of times, just that, it is not the same person, the same organism that is here in, 2020 as there was back in 1940, when there was less toxicity, less stress, less, in terms of building the adrenals, do you ever, has source ever told you that possibly some of the hormones like DHEA or something like that would help? Or is it more vitamins and minerals and diet and actual stress relief?
Well, it's about certain techniques that people are unaware of. Medical medium information really helped out a lot of people with adrenals to keep them strong, like the adrenal snacks. And if you go past 2-3 hours without eating, you're now running on adrenaline. You're not running on blood sugar, because
Right.
the blood sugar, you've used it up.
Right.
You've already used up your glucose, and you're eating it up. So now when glucose starts to get used up and dissipates, and it's going, now adrenals are kicking in. They become your fuel. So when you go without eating, your adrenals are just pumping out adrenaline, and now you're running on adrenaline. And that's the thing with intermittent fasting. Here's how it's done. With intermittent fasting, it's like, don't eat in the morning, try not to eat as far as you can during the day, and do coffee drinks all day. And for not everybody, for a lot of people. And with that, you're now running on, you're using your good adrenals, and now you're going to experience what it's like 5 years from now with really bad adrenals, adrenals that are shot. And I've seen women do this, young women, and they just don't know about this yet. They'll just get into intermittent fasting. They'll do the coffee drinks. They'll do the matcha tea all day, and they'll stop eating. And they don't know that they're running on adrenaline. And they don't know this. And that adrenaline is going to give them instant clarity, more clarity. They're going to be able to think better. They're going to be able to feel better. They're going to be able to be on that adrenaline high. But it gets you in the end. It just does, unless you kind of balance it out. You can still intermittent fast in a certain way, but you got to make sure you're fueling yourself a little bit. Maybe the celery juice, maybe some coconut water, maybe, different options. And I talk about that in Cleanse to Heal, or the adrenal snacks, where you're eating just every 2 hours, you're eating, some celery sticks and some apples, and you're getting a little bit of fuel, keeping that glucose moving, keeping it going, getting the mineral salts going. And so that's a way to protect your adrenals. And then they can come back. They can start coming back. It's just people don't know how to protect their adrenals.
Yeah,
and sure, there's
adrenals.
Adrenal supplements you can take, and you can play the guessing games. And, well, I think my adrenals are having problems, let me take this adrenal supplement. You can do those kinds of things, but really you want to bring your adrenals back and know how to live in a way to help protect them. And it's an important thing. And if you still want to do your caffeine, try to at least do like your adrenal snacks. Try to at least eat a little bit in between. The intermittent fasting, you can do it in a way to protect your adrenals. I talk about that in Cleanse to Heal, because it's not a totally wholly bad idea. It has its benefits, because when you intermittent fast, you're getting rid of the fats in the morning, and you're getting rid of the eggs, the butter, the cream, the milk. You're getting the bacon, sausage. You're getting rid of, your avocado in the morning. You're not even using avocado in the morning when you're intermittent fasting for the most part. You're not doing nut butters in the morning. You're not doing peanut butter smoothie bowls in the morning. And because of that, you're getting rid of your fats in your diet, and you're allowing your liver to cleanse for the first time in your life. And that's why people get a benefit intermittent fasting. But the flip side is, if you don't do it right, I'll see you in 10 years. You'll be at Dr. Prudence's office. You'll be at Dr. Prudence Hall's office, and you'll be there. And you won't realize this when you're 20. Yeah, you won't realize this when you're 20, but you'll be at Dr. Prudence's, Prudence office, or another doctor's office when you're 28, when you're 31. You'll be there, and you'll be like now playing that guessing game it's a whirlwind. It's just terrible.
You have been absolutely a godsend to us. Thank you, Anthony. You know, I want you to be happy in your life, and you know, so many people admire you and love you, and you're a living example of what it's like to have a life that is guided by spirit. And so really thank you, and what a pleasure to talk with you and to hear your wisdom.
It's an honor to be here. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me on. Incredible.
Thank you, Anthony. Be well, and really big love from me and all of us.
Oh, well, love to meet everybody out there, and thanks for everybody watching. And it was just fun to be here.
It's fun. We'll do it again. Okay. Bye, Anthony.
Bye.
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 Thanks.